Hey everybody, I'm Katallina, and today we're here to talk about an Archdemon's Dilemma, how to love your elf bride. Today's episode was equal parts laugh out loud funny and so frustrating that I wanted to punch a pillow, or maybe just Zagan because, oh my lord, our guy was so dense this week. It was bad, but it had to happen. Anyway, I'm rambling, so let's get on with talking about this. First up, we should talk about the most hilarious things in the episode, which started right from the beginning. We actually picked right up where we left off. Zagan was hugging Nephy while she was kind of having her breakdown from last week, which was totally understandable given everything that the girl has been through. That made absolute sense. We jump forward to see that Zagan and Nephy have reached this point where Zagan is sitting in his chair. Nephy comes down, she's wearing a nightgown, she's carrying a pillow, and she's like, "Would you like to sleep with me?" And of course, Zagan's face turns the color of a tomato because he has completely misunderstood the context of the question. He's all envisioning what it would be like to literally be with Nephy. But Nephy is actually concerned about the fact that Zagan sleeps in his chair in the throne room every night rather than having a proper bed. You remember a while back I talked about how there seems to only be one bed in this castle, and Nephy is the one we always see sleeping in it. Well, there are a couple reasons for that. One, Zagan doesn't like to leave his throne because it is like the focal point for a bunch of the barriers and things that he has in the castle. And two, Nephy is the one sleeping in the bed. So what Nephy does, once she explains everything and we get that part cleared out, is she offers to let Zagan use her lap as a pillow. And oh brother, he does, and he goes to roll over, and holy crap, he looks up and basically sees the Mount Everest of boobs glancing down at him, which had to be really, really awkward and was really, really funny because that kind of humor does not really faze me. I mean, come on, that's just the way people are. Everybody thinks like that about something. Next up, of course, is the fact that we get the return of Barbatos, and I was thrilled because I super loved him in episode 1, and I've been waiting not so patiently for him to come back, and oh good lord, the wait was absolutely worth it. He immediately asks Zagan why he hasn't sacrificed Nephy and when he plans to do so, and Zagan is like, what? Because what's actually just happened just before this whole situation goes down is that Zagan has actually asked Nephy if she would like to become his apprentice and learn sorcery, and we've seen the two actually training together. So Zagan actually reintroduces Nephy to Barbatos as his apprentice, and Barbatos is sitting there like, why? Like, it's never occurred to Barbatos that he might want to take someone on and teach them and carry on his skill set through another person. He just doesn't comprehend that in the slightest. And yet Zagan is getting very annoyed because the way that Barbatos is talking about Nephy is as if she is some kind of possession or object. And Zagan is just getting more and more annoyed. Eventually, though, Barbatos talks about the fact that he is really interested in finding out who is going to get to become the 13th Archdemon, and he wants the spot. Whereas Zagan is like, I don't really know whether I would be the right fit for that. I've only been practicing magic for 10 years, and is much more modest about it when he talks about it. Another cool thing that I noticed and I really loved is that we get a couple really awesome scenes with Nephy where she is actually singing Zagan's praises. One of these is actually near the beginning where she's actually comforting him and she's saying, "Master, you are not a bad person," and I thought that was really sweet. And another is after Barbatos leaves, and despite how he talked and everything else, Nephy is like, "That's your friend, right?" And Zagan is like, no, not really. And Nephy actually picks up on the fact that despite the fact that Zagan is saying this, that Zagan actually seems to enjoy Barbatos' company, and she points that out to him. And he thinks about it in his head. He doesn't scold her or anything. He's very good about that when they're having conversations. And I like how they are starting to improve in their ability to actually at least speak to each other. They don't always come across correctly, but they do tend to be honest, which is definitely good. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting because, I mean, is Barbatos actually your friend, Zagan, or is something else going on? We will have to see. From there, we get to the end of the more comedic end of the episode, and things take a more serious and more dour turn as we go into the second half. We actually find out that Zagan has been invited to speak to the other archdemons, and that he doesn't exactly know what they want from him, and he shows up and he's kind of tense. But it turns out that they actually want him to become the 13th, and he's super shocked about this. And they explain to him that because of how rapidly he's been learning magic, and because of how well he is able to adapt to it and to create his own unique magics in the process, that it's pretty much inevitable that he would become an archdemon, because not having him actually be part of the group would actually end up eventually being a problem or detriment to the existing group to begin with. They basically tell him that he could hypothetically, with time, take anyone out, that he is going to, without question, be the most powerful sorcerer in the world. And Zagan's like, well then why should I join you? Like, what is the point of this? And one of them is like, just because you are powerful doesn't mean that there is no way that we can hurt you. There are things other than you which can be taken. And he immediately thinks of Nephy. So he does agree to take this position, but it's suddenly not really such a joyous or wonderful thing for him. And that's really wild, because this is something he has been striving toward for like a decade, and that he probably figured he wasn't going to be getting until a much later point in his life, if ever. These are the creme de la creme of mages. These are the people at the top. These are the people that other mages fear. So it's really interesting to see how, now that he has this other set of objectives that he cares about and that he's been striving toward, spending time with Nephy and like building almost like familial ties with her, suddenly this old dream just isn't as exciting as it once was, and yet he knows he needs to accept. And this is the part that leads to me wanting to punch a goat in the throat. He comes home, he finds Nephy cooking lamb stew. He removes the collar because he was able to obtain the key to be able to do that. And then the idiot tells her to get out. It's like, okay, I can think of this on several different levels. From a writing perspective, this had to happen, and she needs to spend some time on her own. She needs to get a grip on actually focusing on her own like existence and survival. She needs to actually obtain her own autonomy, because they cannot have a relationship if she is still thinking of herself as if she is a piece of property and as if the only thing she lives for is him. It's really great that she cares about him, and it's great that he cares about her, but they need to be able to actually function as individuals, or they have no chance of really being a functioning and healthy couple. So I get that. But Zagan, you are not thinking clearly. Number one, I get that you decided that you wanted her to go because you are really afraid of what becoming an archdemon is going to do to you as a person, and whether she would want to be around you. And you're also concerned that people might target her. But the thing you're not thinking of is the fact that, number one, people are still going to try and target her, even if she is not with you anymore. And actually, without you there, isn't that just going to be easier? Number two, she has no earthly possessions. She has nowhere to go. She has no one she trusts. What exactly do you think is going to happen to this woman, genius? Did you think about that? I mean, it's really kind of wild, because like, that is something that I was really concerned about the minute this happened. And then we have to think about the situation from Nephy's point of view. Nephy doesn't understand how dangerous this whole archdemon situation is. She has no idea that there are these people who might very well be targeting her to get to Zagan, so she doesn't understand that he's coming at it from that angle. All she knows is that she was with him. He said he wanted her with him. He said he needed her. He takes off her collar, which should have been a net positive for her, but instead he causes it to become a traumatic situation by making it be something that leads to somebody yet again abandoning her, just like her village did in the situations that she had growing up. And I mean, I get that that's not what he was thinking, but I can only imagine it from her point of view. When I try to envision how she probably felt about this, it makes me think of part of the lyrics from an Alanis Morissette song called Sympathetic Character, which read, "You were my keeper, you were my anchor, you were my family, you were my savior." I think that really sums up basically how Nephy probably feels about Zagan. And I mean, it probably seems weird that somebody would feel that way about another person after a month. And it definitely isn't entirely healthy that they have the history that they have. But I mean, we also have to keep in mind the world they live in and the reality that they have been through and how they have actually used and treated that situation. For Nephy, this is probably as good as it's ever gotten, and suddenly everything that she has become accustomed to, everything that has been at least in part healing her and helping her actually recover, is instantly gone at a moment's notice, and that has to be absolutely traumatizing. I mean, she's sitting there and she actually says, like, I'm surprised that I'm not crying, but she's probably so in freaking shock that she can't even react. So it'll be really interesting to see where these two will actually go from here. And it was absolutely from them needing to be able to choose each other, something that did need to happen. But they did a really amazing job with not making me completely hate Zagan and understand where he's coming from, but still feel incredibly heartbroken for Nephy, because I cannot begin to fathom what she is probably going through right now. Anyway, did you guys watch this episode? What did you think of everything that happens? And what do you think's gonna happen next? Any thoughts you have, feel free to drop them in the comments below, and let's keep this discussion going. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next video, and see you around. Bye!